Hello, Salesforce Ohana. Have you ever heard of these people that make six figures, get to work on all of the latest, coolest Salesforce products? They put in 60 plus hours a week. For some of you, consultants may come to mind when I talk about those items. And I'm here to shed some light on what it's like to be a consultant. I've also got some really cool special guests, some titans of the consultant world, to give their perspective on different consultant roles. So this is a really special video, a long time in the making. I'm Walters954 from salesforcementor.com, and let's talk about consulting. All right, to kick things off, let's actually talk about me. As a lot of you may know, I've been in Salesforce consulting for about 3 years at small to medium-sized companies, mostly doing development, but I also have done stuff like pre-sales and contract negotiation training, you name it, that's kind of consulting. And what I really love about it is that you're always learning. There's never really a dull moment. There's always something new to do, some new project. If you're in that consulting world, it's very fast paced and I like to be in the action. Tell me what you need and I'll figure out a way to get it done. I may not know the answer right away, but give me a few hours. I'm sure I'll design something that'll work and scale in the Salesforce ecosystem. So what I kind of just described is somebody more in the solution architect or client-facing consultant type of role. When you have a problem without a solution or a general idea of how to solve it, and you need background information on the Salesforce platform or architecture in general to solve it. So a lot of times this type of role, consulting type of role, you'll have to come up with a plan to try to solve whatever the client's issues are and then convince them to actually go along with it. Architect roles can be hands-on, but a lot of times they are more design and big picture type thinking that's going on in those types of roles. In contrast to an architect, you can also have somebody like an analyst or a configurator, and these people are the ones that get stuff done on the project. So you need 5 objects, 4 flows, and a ton of fields created to solve whatever problem that the client has. The architect's job is to write up the plan and the analyst's job is to execute it as it goes along. So configuring and customization of the Salesforce platform to the specifications of the client and the plan that's going on is what the analyst does. And this role is typically not really just for admins. You can also have developers who take in requirements, very specific requirements from a lead or an architect, and it needs to be coded to work the way that it's been planned out. These analyst type roles are generally more junior in nature because you'll be getting a lot of guidance and you'll, for the most part, get a list or specific instructions on how to complete the project or do whatever you need to get done. You don't need to understand the big picture, and you may not actually understand everything as you go along. Even myself, when I first started out, I didn't understand why I was building all of everything that went into the project, but I knew that it was required as part of the project, and it all made sense in the end as I started to grow my expertise and understand the big picture of what we were doing. Now, these are extreme overgeneralizations. I don't want you to think, oh, well, an architect only does this and an analyst only does this. Consulting is a crazy mixed bag, and you could have something exactly like that or nothing like it at all. So I'm actually going to pass it over to Jessica and Rachel from 100 Days of Trailhead to get some more perspective on different types of Salesforce consultant roles that are out there.
Hi, I'm Jessica Murphy.
And I'm Rachel Watson, and we are both consultants.
So I'm a consultant with a small firm. And being a consultant with a small firm means that what the person does is dependent on the niche of the consultancy. But in general, people in small consultancies do a large range of tasks. So I do things like negotiate contracts, gather requirements, design a solution. I may or may not actually implement or build the solution depending on the scope of work, but I also train and I write curricula so that organizations can train their people.
And I work for a very different type of a consultancy. I work for an incredibly large consultancy. And so with a large consultancy, you have a very finite role. So your role is just this, whatever that is. And then you work with very large teams, and the teams can change from one project to another. So from project A to project B, I may not be working with anybody that I worked with before, and I may not be working with anybody I've ever worked with. However, I might have some overlap of some people between other projects that I've worked previously. So it just depends. You often have to choose a specialty. So that could be an industry specialty, it could be a tech specialty, or it could be both. So that's another thing in very large companies and very large consultancies that do happen. And then last but not least, every single project, you are learning something new continuously. It could be anything from new software to new cloud technologies to new things that you're going to integrate with, methodologies, new coding languages, et cetera, et cetera. So that's a huge difference between the smaller versus the larger consultancies. So I think that our biggest tip for consultants or people that want to become consultants, we believe that good consultants have to be flexible. They have to be patient, regardless of large or small consultancies. And you have to be able to explain very complex topics in very simplistic ways for all audiences, everyone from business users all the way up to C-level.
Your experience and comfort level may dictate what type of firm you work for. Smaller firms may not be for you if you don't like being so hands-on or client-facing. And like Rachel explained, larger firms give you more flexibility to specialize in one specific area like CPQ or FSL. Moving down the ladder, though, of company sizes, let's speak with my good friend Erick over at Full Op to explain some of the different personality traits that go into picking some of these different consulting companies.
Hello people of YouTube. My name's Erick and I'm the founder of Full Op and a content creator on the Salesforce Stories YouTube channel. And I'm here today at one's request to be able to talk a little bit about the differences between working in small firms, large firms, and also doing a solo consultant firm and helping discuss what is right for you. So a little bit of background, I've done 3 years of a Salesforce admin work, and I've then switched over to start my own solo consultancy firm, which we grew into a very small Salesforce consulting firm where at its height we had about 8 team members. So some of the big things that you have to keep in mind when you're working in large and small firms really boils down to one question, which is kind of like, what is your personality when it comes to work? So do you like a fast-paced environment, or do you prefer something that carries out a little more structure? And that question kind of answers whether you're going to be good as an admin or as a consultant, or if you're going to be good also in a big firm versus a small firm. So the biggest piece that I can explain with that is that you really have to consider that on bigger firms you have a lot more structure. So whether it's an admin or you're in a consulting firm, then you're going to be working on larger projects. You're going to be working on larger teams, and ultimately, again, as there's more structure, you're going to be confined to a specific responsibility within that project or set of projects, again, regardless of whether you're an admin or a consultant. So in a smaller firm, the opposite occurs. You're going to be exposed to a lot more projects, you're going to be exposed to a lot more initiatives, and you're going to be responsible for a lot more things than you usually would in a large organization. In a solo consulting firm, you're literally doing everything, and you really have to have a passion for it, because otherwise you can burn out very quickly. And just getting started in solo consulting is an entire conversation for another time. And there's certainly resources out there on YouTube. I highly suggest you check them out. But the big thing that I want you to consider is that going back to your personality, what kind of personality do you have? Because I understand that sometimes it may be tough, especially when you don't have a lot of experience, to get into the Salesforce ecosystem, but you really have to kind of plan that out, because otherwise you'll see that you will not excel if you get into a job that you really don't have the passion for that type of environment. Because ultimately, yes, there's a passion in Salesforce and you're going to be doing something that you enjoy, but at the same time, if you like using the latest and greatest in Salesforce, being in a large organization might hinder you from being able to do that, because there might be a lot of red tapes. You might have to go through so many hoops in order to be able to release some new functionality. It might take too long. The projects may get canceled because they just stall and something else just picks up because it's more important. And where in small organizations, you'll definitely have a chance to put the solution out there very quick, because you'll have, one, a higher degree of authority, and two, you're going to be involved in more initiatives as they're coming about. So realistically, look at it from your side. Picture yourself in both types of environments. I would challenge you to even try to find some people that have been in those environments and ask them questions to see really where would you fit in this ecosystem. And for me, as a solo consultant and working in a small firm, I'll give a little bit of background. Over the past 3 months, me, my wife, and my newborn daughter, we've been in Italy. We chose to come here as our daughter was born, so we could be close to family and give us a hand with our daughter. And it's been a fantastic experience. I've been able to work remotely during this whole time, and I continue to intend to do that until January. And as much as it's been a fantastic experience, you wouldn't be able to do that in a larger organization. More than likely not. Some might be flexible enough, but it's been a fantastic experience. You certainly can't fake the dog barking as our dog is probably greeting my wife who just came in. But I highly recommend that you take a look at it from your side, see what fits best for you, ask people about it, and feel free to ask me some questions. I make myself available. Again, you can go to the Salesforce Stories channel, check out some more content, or ask me questions at the same time. I know Warren, and doing the amazing job that he does the Salesforce Mentor channel, he'll probably be able to do quite a bit. So I'll leave it at that. I want to thank everyone. I want to thank you, Warren, for putting this together. And back to you, Warren.
I think Eric hit the nail on the head with his comments about fast-paced versus structured work environment. It really depends on your personal and professional goals, which ones you choose. Speaking of being a little bit more fast-paced, what's more fast-paced than solo consulting? We've got one of the most successful independent Salesforce consultants, Bradley, to give us some of his thoughts on freelancing.
Hey guys, Bradley Rice here from the Salesforce for Everyone Facebook group and YouTube channel. And thanks, Warren, for having me put together a quick video about the differences between freelancing and consulting for consulting firms, so that you can understand what those differences are and how you can be prepared. So the number one thing is that when you're working for consulting firms, they own you to an extent, right? So they're going to work you 40 hours a week at a minimum. On a busy week, you might work 40, 50, 60 hours a week. Plus, you have to research new topics. They're always challenging you with new projects and new ideas. And that's great in a way, right? So when you're working in a consulting firm, you're constantly going to be challenged. That may mean you have to work a lot of hours. It may mean you have to strain yourself, but you're going to grow and get better as a Salesforce professional, which is awesome. The other thing Salesforce consultancies love are certifications. So obviously some of the beginner ones like admin, platform app builder, PD1, those are not, they're great and they get your foot in the door, but really when you can level up into some of these, CPQ, Marketing Cloud, Pardot, even some of the simpler like Sales and Service Cloud can really differentiate you. And these all tie into the partner score, so that the partners, these Salesforce consulting firms, can generate more work based on how many employees they have with these certifications, because it influences their partner score. So anyway, not to go too deep into that, but the point is that the consulting firms are going to challenge you, which is great. They're going to work you hard, which is up to you whether or not you like that, and they're going to pay you well. So consultants, Administrative consultants, commonly called solution architects, might make in the low 100,000s, maybe 100 to 120,000 plus bonuses. Some can make a little more, some might make a little less. Development consultants can obviously make a little bit more than that, but it's fairly comparable. You might be looking to make $125,000 to $150,000 plus bonuses, which, in my opinion, whether you're an admin consultant or a development consultant, making over $100,000 a year plus bonuses is a good gig either way. So you're going to work a little more than in a W-2 job. You're going to be challenged more. You're going to juggle multiple projects at the same time. And that's going to add a lot to your plate. So if you're coming from a W-2 job and you're thinking about consulting, just be ready to be challenged and level up the responsibility level with your clients, which is perfectly fine. I think it's a natural progression to becoming a very skilled, very affluent Salesforce professional. Now, the next step, or sort of maybe an alternate option, is becoming a Salesforce freelancer. So I've been a freelancer, what I like to call a Salesforce independent consultant, for the last 5 years now. For the 5 years before that, I worked as a Salesforce consultant with big firms like Blue Wolf, Rackspace, and other firms like that. So I've got about 10 years of consulting under my belt now, so I've got a good feel for the differences. Now, when you move into independent consulting, this is a new sort of area. And the reason for that is while it's very much like working at a consulting firm, you are responsible for everything yourself. So if you mess something up, there's no one to fall back on and fix it other than maybe your Ohana network, right? So it's very much up to you to fix things. You're going to have to find your own clients. You're going to have to invoice your clients to make sure that you get paid. And you do have to deal with a little bit of influx of, do they pay every 30 days, every 90 days? And that's up to you to decipher those payment terms and do what works for you. So there's a lot that goes into, actually running the business of an independent consultant and actually, getting paid and finding clients. Now, on the other hand, last year, I made $225,000 working 20 hours a week as an independent consultant. So I don't say that because you should care about how much money I make. I say that to let you know the difference majorly is that you're going to take over this responsibility of being an independent consultant instead of working for a consulting firm. And the biggest reason for that is income. I would say number one for most people is going to be income. So I would say that typically, if you're working 40 hours a week as a freelance consultant, you're probably making, $250,000 to $350,000. Where as a consultant in a firm, you're probably going to cap out around $150,000 typically. So you can have much higher income potential with that responsibility. The other thing is lifestyle flexibility. I can choose to have one client working 10 hours a week and probably making $30,000, $40,000 a year. I can choose to do that. And really, I would step back and say it's probably, if you're working 10 hours a week, 40 hours a month, you should probably honestly be making closer to $50,000 or $60,000 just with that one 10-hour a week client. So the point being there is that if I could get my expenses low enough that I can survive on $50,000 or $60,000 a year, then I can choose the flexibility to just work 10 hours a week and pay my bills and do whatever it is I want to do with my free time. So the consulting firms obviously don't offer you that. They want you to work full time for them and probably 40 plus hours a week typically. So freelancing, definitely more responsibility. You have to find your own clients, do your own invoices, but once you get comfortable with it, I would say give yourself 6 months to a year. And once you're comfortable with it, you'll find that you can create stability of income, you can create a flexible lifestyle, and you can create much higher income ranges than working a W-2 position or working in consulting. So I hope that gives you a high-level overview of why you might want to consider freelancing or you might want to consider consulting for a firm. It's totally up to you based on the lifestyle you want and the level of responsibility that you want, but both are great options if you're looking to level up your income in the Salesforce ecosystem.
More responsibility means more money. Freelancing or independent consultant really gives you that flexibility that isn't available in the normal consulting roles, at your normal companies. But freelancing versus traditional consulting is something to consider when you're looking to get into the Salesforce ecosystem. Really informative stuff over there from Bradley Rice. So let's recap a little bit. Jessica and Rachel told us that Consulting is always changing, so you have to remember to be flexible, and there are a lot of different roles out there, not just the cookie cutter ones of, let's say, architect and analyst. Erick wants you to understand some of the different personalities that thrive in the consulting world, so be mindful of what's best for you. Bradley pointed out some of the differences between traditional consulting and freelancing. You can have increased responsibility, but that also increases your profits at the end of the day. And for myself, just going over some of the more generic roles that exist inside of consulting. You can have the architect and the analyst, and your tasks may differ depending on what type of role you pick. There's a ton inside of consulting that we haven't talked about yet. Just think about roles like quality assurance, project managers, contracting, all of those types of things are all baked into consulting. More to come on those later. And if you have a preference, please let me know down in the comment section below. I hope this video has helped shed some light on the mystery of consulting. If you liked it, make sure to like and subscribe. Let me know in the comments down below if we missed any of the consulting roles or one of the roles that you want me to take a deep dive in on the next video. If I don't know it, I can probably bring somebody on to talk about it. Anyways, I am Walters954. Thank you all so much for watching, and remember, I believe in you.